Scanning for audio.
Hello and welcome to another Tin Dog podcast. This time we're going to be talking about the new Ninth Doctor box set. 3.3 Doctor Who, the Ninth Doctor, Buried Threats, not Buried Treats as I originally read. Thank you, dyslexia. Written by Lisa McMullin, Mark Wright and Matt Fitton. Three particularly good authors when it comes to Big Finish. Yes, now, on the box you will clearly see Lisa Bowman, Bernice and the Ninth Doctor. There's been a few old school people turning up with the Ninth Doctor, and I for one am not going to complain about that because, let's face it, it's what we're here for. We're here for a nice bit of nostalgia. Released in February 2024, not available to the general public beyond the Big Finish website until the 30th of April 2024. Okay, so the overall synopsis for the box set. Not all perils faced by the Doctor are as obvious as an alien invasion. Some threats have been buried for millennia, some a mere centuries, and some hide inside a troubled mind. But whenever he finds injustice, danger, or an irresistible mystery, the Doctor won't stop digging until he's discovered the truth. So, you've got 3.1, Theatre of Cruelty, Lisa McMullin, 3.2, The Running Men by Mark Wright, and 3.3, Ancient History by Matt Fitton. Now, although Bernice is on the box, she's only going to appear in the one story. She's going to be in Ancient History by Matt Fitton. I'm going to cover all three, do not worry, but I'm just warning you now. Okay, so the first one is the most curious of all, and yet the first one is the one that stays with you the longest afterwards and makes you question stuff and, more importantly, makes you go off and do a bit of research, depending on how you want to say those words. I'll explain in a moment. Here's the synopsis and then we'll jump dive in. We'll jump dive in? What is that? Is that even English? I'm sorry. I do know how to use English, just obviously not today. Someone or something is manipulating the dreams of French playwright Antonin Artaud. As Antonin's nightmares, why did I say it in the accent? I'm sorry, it must just be one of those days. It's the anniversary of Terry Pratchett's death and Douglas Adams' death. Not a great day, 12th of March. Otherwise, right. The artist's having nightmares and they're being made manifest. The Doctor is compelled to intervene. Otherwise, Artaud's new idea for an immersive theatre could become a ticket, literally, to die for. Okay, so obviously I've got a bit of a theatre background. I spent the best part of a decade working in a theatre box office. I've got theatre qualifications and I've been writing for the theatres since I was sort of 14. So I was very, very surprised when this guy's discussed in the narrative and in the making of, and I'd just not come across this name before. It's like there was a huge section of my education when it came to theatre and into immersive theatre and all of those things that was just missing from my education. Perhaps it was more proscenium arch based, that kind of thing. It doesn't matter. What does matter is that you've got somebody who's held in as much esteem as like Brecht or some of the others, some of the really big giants of theatre when it comes to research and characterisation and performance in general that I didn't know anything about. So I've gone away and done some research, and that was very, very interesting. So what you've got this narrative that begins quite confusingly, like a knock on the door of the TARDIS while it's in flight. But you've also got a narrative that's happening in the past, relative past. You've got one that may or may not be referring to a horrible historical event, but then you've got the narratives and you've got it's beautifully interwoven. You start off by thinking, oh yeah, it's just a narrative story, I've got it, I know where we're going with this. But then there's layers. And beyond the layers, you've got the characterizations. You've also got a very nice name check of Lizzie Hopley halfway through, which made me smile. It's incredibly well structured. But the structure only exists in order to provide a vehicle for the characterization and the acting, and it seems effortless. It's a beautiful piece of construction and a beautiful piece of writing working together to produce a great story. This, I trust you. Trust me on this. It will stay with you for a long time afterwards. And if you like history of theatre, then this is definitely one for you. The second story, this one's close to my heart. You see, I live in West Yorkshire. I know I've got the accent of someone from the northeast. Trust me, the people of the northeast didn't all sound like that, but some of them do. So, I've been living in Yorkshire for the best part of 20 years now, and Halifax is basically the next town along from where I live. And this story, The Running Man, has been written by Mark Wright, who is a Big Finish writer, well, a writer who works for Big Finish and is based here. I've done interviews with him, and interviewed him in the past. It was incredibly useful. He gave me his time. I was very pleased by that. I'm very grateful. Mark's set a Doctor Who story, basically set where I live, and for that I'm impressed and I'm very happy. Here's the synopsis. The TARDIS brings the Doctor to 21st Century Halifax. Today, now. Alongside Police Sergeant Ambika, they investigate a mysterious death. The trail leads to Hebble Piazza and an unscrupulous developer as the Doctor uncovers the town's distant past, an infamous Halifax gibbet. The running men are rising from history. This made me want to visit the museums and see some of the things that are mentioned in the story. Again, a level of education that's given to me in the way that the Doctor Who TV series would have done. It's a story that's set in kind of your adopted hometown, which is always going to be good. I mean, let's face it, I even had to write my own Doctor Who story set in Jarrow, which is not my own town, but it's the next historically important place along. Unless you want to do some Romans and Wall's End, let's not go there. What we need to discuss is this Halifax-based story. There's a lot of local history in here because it's been looked at. Now, the thing is, this story's existed inside Mark's head for a long time. And the reason you can tell that is because, like the first story, it's got lots of layers, lots of research, and lots of local colour that's going into it. You can imagine it actually being shot on location in the place, and it feels so real. You can see the hills around Halifax are quite sharp and all covered in trees, and you could picture it there in front of you. If you know the place and you know the locations, this is very, very real as a story. Very impressed, and I'm very happy that, again, like I said, it's set here. Number 3 is, like I said, the story with Lisa Bowman. Well, this one is called Ancient History. Professor Bernice Summerfield is delving into the mystery of the Coven, a mighty warrior horde vanished overnight, but her expedition seems jinxed when a familiar blue box appears. Benny knows they're in trouble. As Ancient History resurfaces, the Doctor wants to keep some things buried, but Benny's an expert at digging up the past. It's been really nice over the last few box sets where the Doctor's met someone from his own past, and these characters, these people, present the Doctor with, hey, why don't you get somebody to travel with you, or hey, you could talk to us about this problem that's going on, or what did happen to the Time Lords? Oh, you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. These work, those moments come together and produce something gorgeous, and you've got those here. Benny works really well with the Ninth Doctor, and I'm impressed by the way that it's all working as one. Today it was announced that there's going to be a River Song and Ninth Doctor box set, and people were like, oh yeah, can you imagine the conversation where Christopher turns to Nick and says, and Nick says, I'm going to tell you the backstory of River Song. And on the internet people are saying, oh yeah, I don't care, just can we do it? And that's not going to be true. What's most likely is Christopher would turn to Nick and say something along the lines of, does my character know who she is? No. Then I shouldn't either. And that's much more realistic and much more likely. But here, this Doctor knows Benny, but Benny doesn't know this Doctor, but does start suspecting, and it's really nicely done. This ancient warrior race who's half Cyberman, half Dalek, but not quite, which is very Ninth Doctor, is really, really well put together. I love this box set so much more than I was expecting to. I'll let you hear the trailer and you can decide for yourself, but as far as I'm concerned, you really do need to throw yourself into this one, because each story will stay with you for a slightly different reason, and for that reason alone, it's well worth having. Until next time, be seeing you.
Another piece of history uncovered.
From Big Finish Productions, Doctor Who, The Ninth Doctor Adventures, Buried Threats.
I want to create a theatre which will assault the senses.
You sent me an invitation.
A space thundering with images and crammed with sounds.
Tell my story, Antonin.
A theatre that disrupts and disturbs.
Why write a play about a woman who killed her own father?
One which taps into the space between feeling and reason. A theatre of cruelty.
Is it okay if I plug myself into your brain tonight while you sleep? I'm the Doctor. This is Sergeant Ambika Desai, West Yorkshire Police.
This happened before! Doctor!
Intense entropic degradation.
Something wonderful is happening.
That's impossible. Still digging, Professor Summerfield?
The Coravin burial chamber is an important academic find.
For a burial chamber, it's missing a vital ingredient.
There are no biological remains anywhere on the site.
The Coravin. Imagine a species with the cunning of Daleks, tech skills of Cybermen, bloodlust of Vulprine.
Time of transcendence. Yes. Summon our armies home.
What have you done?
Something brilliant and stupid.
This is our world. The sting of battle.
Big Finish.
That
for
was
the
the
love
Tin Dog
of
Podcast.
stories.
Everything discussed is the intellectual property of others. No infringement is intended. For early access to reviews, follow the show on YouTube or Twitter @Tin Dog Podcast. To contact the show, email tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. The Tin Dog Podcast is a founder member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance.